Alex.
And I'm Kris, and you're watching
Thanks! We Hate It! With Alex and Kris.
Alright, so what are we doing here? We are talking horror and what we kind of hate about it.
Yeah.
Today's episode is top 5 worst Oscar snubs. So these are movies that we think should have actually won at the Oscars and just were screwed entirely.
Yeah, specifically in the horror genre, especially since horror is typically not touched by the Academy, which is
very rarely
horseshit. Because there's so many great films out there that really speak to a lot of audiences, and it's just ridiculous how they're not even recognized the way they should be.
Not only great films, you've got great performances that are Oscar-worthy. You've got great special effects that are Oscar-worthy. You've got great storytelling that's, it does. It feels like the horror genre gets shafted when it comes to major awards.
Big time.
So we are going to talk about our top 5 worst Oscar snubs for horror genre today.
All right. Who's getting started?
You go first.
All right. Word. So I would like to start off with one of my favorite Stephen King stories, Carrie. So I love Carrie so much. The book is great. The movie is amazing. Brian De Palma is chef's kiss. Right. Very memorable style and just overall great storyteller. So Carrie was nominated. There was a Best Actress nomination for Sissy Spacek.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved. And Best Supporting Actress for Laurie Piper.
Very well deserved.
I do have to say, I do want to specifically talk about Laurie Piper because that performance was off the fucking wall. I remember watching that movie when I was pretty young. I was pretty young.
She was scary.
She was terrifying. And she's, just rigid and set in her ways. And she played it with such tenacity and just, there's nothing soft about that role. It's just, it's mind-blowing in my opinion.
It's just all hard edges.
Yeah, and it's that's what makes it so terrifying. And I remember watching that as a kid and being actually like really inspired by that, by how young I was. And I was like, wow, that was, I saw it from a performance type of view. Because when I was younger, I did a lot of,
imagining
and
pretend.
A lot of like show choir things and a lot of acting and drama. So I was really involved with that in high school, especially, and
Same.
I recognize that as just such an amazing performance. And I was like, man, if I ever had an opportunity to act with a character like that, that would be like the number one inspiration to draw from. And she deserved that so much. Yep. She really deserved that nomination. And
I think the beauty with Carrie is you can see, because they've done remakes, you can see just how standout that performance was because no one's come close. No one else. Julianne Moore was, she played that character in one, and she didn't come close. It just, Piper Laurie made that character her own, and she made her scary. She did. So I completely agree with you. I think she should have won.
Terrifying. Yes, she needed that.
Yeah. The horror genre needed that win.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
So my number 5, I have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, specifically for cinematography for Daniel Pearl.
Oh, yes.
I think it should have won cinematography.
Yes, absolutely.
It is a beautifully shot film. And as an example, I'm going to bring up the scene where she's walking up to the house. And that shot it's such an amazingly artistic shot. And with every sequel, I think, has tried to recreate that shot with varying degrees of success. But they still, I don't think any of them quite captured it's like a perfect shot.
I actually, I saw somewhere, like, kind of like a fun trivia fact, that shot was not on the original shot list. And Daniel Pearl had suggested it to Tobe Hooper and was like, hey, this would look really cool. And at first he was kind of against it. Tobe was like, I don't know. But Daniel shot it anyway. Right. And he added it to the movie. And it turned out to be one of the most iconic shots in horror cinema, or cinema in general. So it's just, I'm so glad that moments like that exist in film.
Exactly.
I'm so happy about that.
It's like Tobe Hooper set out to make a horror movie, but Pearl set out to, like, make an art film, like, and it came together perfectly. Because, even the shot at the end where he's waving the chainsaw in the sun, yeah, it's just iconic imagery. And even the camera work in the dinner scene, the camera work is so good that you feel you're in the room, you're so uncomfortable, you can almost smell how rancid that room is with how intimate the camera work is.
Right.
Yeah, that room was rancid.
It was really bad.
It was
production for that, like, wasn't it? It was like 120 degrees in there.
Right.
Like, the meat started cooking.
And they had to put they had to block the windows, and
I think
people threw up. People had to leave to throw up.
Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, he's like, I threw up a couple of times, which is extra funny because it's Leatherface. Right. You know, he's supposed to be this big scary dude.
So yeah, I think in general it was just a well shot film, and he should have won a cinematography award for it.
Especially for low budget.
Yeah.
You know, low budget, it has such an important place in horror. And because of that, you know, it kind of like takes off the polish of like studio filmmaking.
Exactly.
And what's really cool about that is that it really lets you connect with how raw filmmaking really is. I mean, it's raw human emotion. It's people trying to have fun and make a movie. Like, people are making this, you know, and you can still be immersed in a film with a low budget, and that's just the beauty. That's just the beauty of it.
You've got, you know, Texas Chainsaw was an indie film that spawned, you know, all these other slashers, and then you've got like Night of the Living Dead. It spawned it spawned an empire, you know, but it was an indie film. So yeah, indie film definitely has an important place in filmmaking. All right, so you're number 4.
I am number 4. All right. I am going to talk about The Exorcist.
Oh.
So I think there was a nomination for Best Picture.
I think
for
so,
Exorcist. Yeah. And I'm very, very sad that did not get Best Picture. Obviously, because it's the Academy, it doesn't surprise me that it didn't, you know, win that nomination. However, The Exorcist is not only beyond terrifying, but it sent such a shockwave through America at that time, because that's kind of when the Satanic Panic was starting to really gain some traction. Parents were very concerned. Kids were, you know, being bad and getting into all these things when in reality, it wasn't happening as much as people thought it was. But of course, around that time, you had like the Manson murders, and you had all that stuff that was kind of hyping it up.
Summer Sam, all that, yeah.
Of course, you know, so The Exorcist was, it was such a shockwave where that movie made so much money, and it was such an iconic picture on horror history. And the fact that it did not get any it got the nomination for Best Picture, but the fact it didn't win is just a goddamn shame.
Because it was well scripted, well written, well acted, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was a very solid movie. I don't know if I agree that it should have gotten Best Picture. I feel like it was a good adaptation of a book.
Of course.
But I don't know. It maybe just because it's not one of my favorites. So
a little bit of a bias there.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of a bias, but I would have been thrilled if it had won Best Picture, because I'm going to support any horror that can break that, you know.
Especially with something like The Exorcist, where there's a lot of profound content in that film. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable, including myself. You know, I to this day, as an avid horror fan and advocate, cannot watch that movie alone. I swear to God, that's like one of the only ones that I can't.
Kind of awesome.
I fucking love The Exorcist. Easily in like my top 10 favorite.
Wow. All right. Interesting.
All right. You go.
All right. My turn. All right. So I'm going to pick Saw for Best Original Screenplay for Leigh Whannell.
Okay.
And I wish I could experience that twist at the end again for the first time. Like, in the theater, mind blown. Mind blown.
That's powerful.
And like Scream, Saw rejuvenated the genre, because the genre was, after Scream, was kind of languishing in PG-13 teen horror,
right?
Where they didn't really want to get very serious, right? And Saw kind of went back to the more grown-up psychological horror that still had brutal kills in it, you know?
Yeah.
And John Kramer is not your typical slasher. He was a
No.
slasher we hadn't seen before, you know?
Very different.
So I think for originality, I think it was well written, maybe not always as well acted, so that's why I didn't, pick any of the acting categories. But I think for screenplay, it should have won.
Absolutely. I think Saw also has this large impact on kind of mid-2000s, like, revival of horror. In my personal opinion, I'm not really a big fan of, like, early 2000s horror. There's something about it.
It's very brutal.
There are some movies that are very brutal, and there are some movies I just kind of found boring. And I don't really understand, like, for example, this was more like late 90s, early 2000s. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, I just, things like that.
It's a by the book, it's by the numbers movie. It is.
Right.
It very much is.
Yeah, so anything
I
early
like it,
2000s. Oh, I mean, hey, it's not terrible. I just not a fan. But just that time period, in my opinion, is just really weak, and they just really tried to play on how many horny teens are just gonna, fill up the seats. And
they were trying to make it so that more teens could go to the theaters, which is why you got a lot of PG-13 ratings.
Yes.
And it kind of hobbled the genre for a little bit, and Saw came in like a wrecking ball to be like, here we are, guys.
And especially with, how really fucked up a lot of that content is, and that spawned
way more fucked up content.
It did, and it created a subgenre of torture porn.
Yep.
And that was very important. That was like a landmark on horror because, before you just had, oh yeah, this movie's kind of gory, but now you're having these films come out and you're like, this is beyond gore, and this is just straight to fucked up.
And it's like horror often is. It's in response to what was going on in the world at the time too. You had the torturings going on in Iraq, and prisoners of war, and we got all those reports, and we were hearing all these horrible things.
Yeah.
And the horror genre has always stepped up to be like, let's reflect society back at you. Of course. So that's why I think horror has such a large, varied audience.
Absolutely.
Everyone can find a horror that they identify with.
Horror's reflection on, societal and political content is way, in my opinion, way more impactful than something you would see, in a normal mainstream studio-made film.
Right.
Definitely.
Agreed. So yeah, that's why. Plus, I like Saw. I like Saw because I've always been very much a puzzle person. I like puzzles. I like figuring things out. I'm a mystery person. Mystery's my second favorite genre to horror. And so I love that the whole series is a puzzle. Each one adds to the last one, and you get another piece, and you get you're all trying to fit. So yeah, it's like a big game for me. I love the Saw series.
It's so intricate, and I really do give a lot of props for the writers of how intricate they made all these stories
and how they pay attention.
Yeah,
they do.
They really pay attention to the details. It's fabulous, and I think the Saw, films definitely deserve that credit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right, so number 3.
Number 3. Oh, yes. We're talking about Poltergeist.
Oh, shit.
We're talking about Poltergeist. Another Tobe Hooper film. I guess it's like misinformation because a lot of people think that Steven Spielberg did Poltergeist, but he actually only produced it, and Tobe Hooper actually directed it, so you heard it from me. I am gonna be that. Actually, I'm gonna be a little bit of that on this show. But Poltergeist, I believe, was nominated for Best Effects, and it is a crying shame that they didn't get it. Number one, the whole controversy with, are these real skeletons in the swimming pool?
Right.
They were so well made and so believable that it started as a rumor that they were real skeletons.
Right.
And
they had to come out and be like, no, guys.
It was such a huge deal. And yes, for your information, no, they are props.
Right.
So typically when you make a ghost movie, it can go in a lot of different directions, where it's like, okay, well, do I want to start off with, like, realistic paranormal events? Do I want to, use some knocking on the wall? Or do I want to do, you know, stuff being thrown across the room?
Right.
Or do I want to go balls to the wall and having, you know, basically like Insidious type effects? You know, what are we going to do here? You can go so many different directions. And I feel like Poltergeist went in a really, really great direction in terms of, like, believability. Right. I kind of feel like, you know, paranormal events like that, they're outlandish enough for me to be like, shit, that could, you know, what if this happens in real life?
That
you know,
could happen.
You know, like,
well,
I know that sounds
the thing
absurd,
that
but...
like mysteriously falls off the shelf when nobody is around
course.
it, and you're always like, hello.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for that is the tree. Tree scene with the poor kid who's laying in bed. He's staring at the clown, and he's counting the thunder, and and the thunder. I know. And the thunder is getting closer and closer together as he's counting. And then that tree just fucking crashes in. And, you know, obviously something like that can't happen for real as a paranormal event. But the fact that you can psychologically imagine that situation, and you could even be in the middle of a dream, and there could be some sort of otherworldly energies that could be affecting your dreams, you know, and you could have a dream like that and wake up and be like, holy shit, you know? So I think that's really important to note, that obviously it won't happen in real life, but the fact that you get that idea in someone's head.
Right.
You get that idea in someone's head, and you could be scared enough, you know.
That movie creeped me out when I was a kid. What's her name? The actress who plays the little lady.
Oh, Heather.
Yeah.
Heather...
Not the little girl, the little lady.
Oh, Zelda Rubinson.
Zelda Rubinson. She creeped me out as a kid, because I think she was also in an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, most likely.
And so she creeped me out there too. So this poor little lady, like, she's so cute, but she, as an adult, I'm like, oh, she's so cute, but as a kid, I was scared of her for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, she definitely gives off, you know, a little bit
creepy
like,
vibe.
She can, you know?
I think, like, I thought of her as, like, a doll who had come to life or something as a kid, you know?
Sure.
Like...
Sure.
Because she's so little and cute. Right?
I remember seeing her in a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where where she had the toddler, but the toddler was, I won't spoil it.
No,
there was something odd with the toddler, and like a radio psychiatrist comes in and like does a house call, and a lot of fucked up shit happens, and
it's a great episode.
Oh yeah, it's like one of my favorites. It's so good. But yeah, no, I can definitely see where she can give off that vibe, but the effects in that film for that time were marvelous.
Yes.
And really well thought out and terrifying.
I agree.
You know?
Yep, I agree completely. Yeah, and it just, that movie, like this, they're here, you know, like it sticks with you. It does stick with you. So the special effects were fantastic. The skeletons alone, the fact that they had to sit there and say, no, these are not real guys, that should have given them the award.
Of course.
So I agree.
Of course. Absolutely.
All
right, what you got?
So my number 3 is Scream.
Ooh, okay.
Again, for Best Original Screenplay for Kevin Williamson.
All right.
And this movie, I don't think you guys remember, or maybe you weren't even alive then, but the genre needed Scream. It needed it. Because the genre was languishing in remakes and just sequel after sequel of the same old thing.
Fresh.
Right, it was like Leprechaun 15, it was Jason 30, it was Halloween 50, you know, like it was getting crazy. And then here comes Scream. And it changed and rejuvenated the genre. It proved that horror could be cool. Horror could be hip. It could be with the times.
Of course.
And not only did it use every horror trope and everything in it, but it also made fun of what it was doing. So it was the first, like, meta self-aware. And I think it probably set in a lot of our psyches who grew up with it, because the humor... That's kind of our humor now. Like, we're very cynical people. We're very, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's got lines that are to this day quoted as classics, you know. So I just think it It should have won for Best Original Screenplay because of how much it was needed and how much it did for the genre. It was, I think, a very original idea.
Absolutely.
When it came out.
Absolutely. And, Wes Craven, he's a
God.
Mastermind. He really anything he touches turns to fucking gold.
Right.
I'm just going to throw that. I'm just going to say it because it's really true. But I do have to say I am going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here.
Do it.
I'm going to do it. So I understand the importance that Scream has to the genre, and you're absolutely right. It did kind of refresh the genre and say, hey, knock knock, horror's still here, and we're still kicking ass type of thing. However, Scream is kind of lumped into, my dislike for early 2000s.
But that's the thing, is Scream started it. What it was, and that's what I'm arguing, is it should have won for Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything that came after it kind of was ripping off Scream. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes.
God, I can't even think of them now, but there's 50 million of them. Everything that came out, they were like, oh, you mean we can have jokes and we can be cool and we can be hip? Because really, I think Freddy and maybe Leprechaun were the only ones who were cracking jokes and stuff before then.
Yeah.
But everyone else saw Scream and they're like, oh, you mean we can, make a hip horror movie?
Right.
And then they tried to do that with varying degrees of success. But that's the thing, is Scream started it. So you hate what it became.
Yeah.
But that's the point, though. Texas Chainsaw, you love Texas Chainsaw. That set off the slasher genre a point. But then every movie was that. And then Scream came in and refreshed the genre away from slashers to something new.
Yep.
And then that's what everything became. And then Saw came in and again swept it back. And then everything became that. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should hate Scream. Not hate it, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think Scream should be blamed for the poor horror movies that came after it.
Oh, absolutely not. And I don't necessarily blame Scream for that.
Right.
It was just a lot of the trends that were happening around the early 2000s. I personally found them very boring,
Because they didn't do it like Scream. They weren't self-aware. They weren't... Scream was its own thing, and nobody could capture that lightning in a bottle.
Of course. Absolutely. I totally agree. Very original, and it definitely has its place in horror. I've just
you don't like what it kicked off.
Well, and I've just never been able to vibe with it, I guess. I'm just like, it's okay, but I mean, I don't hate it. It's just not for me,
Fair. Not every horror is for everybody.
It has its importance, and that's what matters.
That's
I
what
recognize
matters.
that.
Exactly. You don't have to like everything. I put Texas Chainsaw as I think it should have won for Best Cinematography. It's not one of my favorite series, guys,
For sure.
But I can recognize what it brings to the horror genre.
Absolutely.
And that's what it should be. It should be about respect, and if you like something, cool. If you don't like something, don't bash it for let everybody like everything.
These are the these types of opinions are true opinions.
Right.
This isn't. These things are one of the few things in the world that are up for debate.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Right. All right, so you're number 2. Are we at 2 already? Okay,
number
number
shit.
2.
All right, here we go. Oh, I'm talking about my boy Ari Aster, Toni Collette in Hereditary. Can we
I agree
please talk about
completely.
this?
I did not like that movie, but I agree that she kicked ass in it.
Toni Collette is, in my mind, a fucking superwoman. This woman has had so many great performances and is just really, truly an expert in her craft. And what she did in Hereditary was not only creepy as shit, but so well done and so well channeled. Mm-hmm. She really deserves a win.
Right. When her face goes it was crazy.
I think the moment that sticks with me the most is when she's sawing her own head off.
Well, I think that sticks with all of us.
Well, but the face she has.
Yes.
Just the face she has is just that hard, rigid, it's fucking scary. It's terrifying. And there's no super special, obviously there's one special effect, but all he had to do was just do a close-up of it.
Right.
All you had to do was do a close-up and just have it for, I don't know, 15 seconds, and that's ingrained in your memory. Mm-hmm. The fact that that moment is so powerful to stick in people's minds, you really, truly have to be an expert in your craft in order to achieve that effect.
Yeah, she did fantastic. I mean,
yeah.
I liked her better in Krampus because I like Krampus is a better movie.
Oh, hell yeah, Krampus is fun.
I didn't like Hereditary for various reasons, but I can fully agree that she could have won an Oscar for that. That performance was amazing. It was. Kudos to her.
Oh, yeah.
I loved her in Muriel's Wedding. That's, like, my favorite of her. That's my favorite Toni Collette performance. Muriel's Wedding.
I totally loved her in Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah, I like that movie, too.
Oh, she was also, like, just as brilliant. And she plays such a great mom.
She should have all the awards.
Like, she should. She deserves it.
The awards.
She deserves it. For sure. All right, are we... Oh, my God, we're number one.
No, I got to do number 2 now.
Oops. Sorry.
And mine is actually for Best Actress, too. Ooh. And it's for Lupita Nyongo for Us.
Yeah.
For Red and Adelaide. Because this woman played 2 very distinct, different characters in this movie. And honestly, everyone did. They all were fantastic. They're playing themselves and then playing their doppelgangers. I think every single member of this cast did fantastic. But Lupita, she took it to a whole other freaking level. Her Red was creepy. And you felt for her Adelaide until you started realizing, wait a minute, like, you know.
Right. You're like, oh, shit.
I think the fact that she pulled off 2 completely separate characters that are both creepy in their own right.
Absolutely.
I think she should have gotten all the awards. She should have been showered with awards for that movie. Like,
absolutely. And the thing, about acting that people, may or may not know, or should at least know, is that, acting is really fucking hard work. And especially if you are playing a part like Lupita did. Where you kind of have to switch on and off. Or a good example is James McAvoy in Split, where you have to go between different characters. This isn't just like now I'm going to act, like this, and now I'm going to be sad, it's way, 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 way more than that, and the amount of work and preparation that goes into roles like that is immensely...
And she hurt herself for it. She said her voice hurt from doing the Red voice.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So she gave her all for that role, and I think she was robbed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And she's just, like, all the other roles I've seen her into, like, she's always just fucking killed it. You know, she kills it in everything. A maverick. And
she understands the assignment.
She really does.
She is so beautiful. Oh my God, beautiful. She's so beautiful. Like, it's not even fair how pretty she is.
It's bullshit, really, honestly. Lupita?
Bullshit.
Not right.
Be pretty, be less pretty.
So for my number 1 Oscar snub, I do consider this a horror film. I'm sure a lot of people would probably consider it a drama, but I don't think it's even close to that. Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
Oh yeah, that definitely, I would put that in thriller territory for sure.
Yeah, it's got a couple of horror elements in there. This movie, guys, it's like beyond uneasy. And it's not necessarily one of those like uneasy feelings where you're going into it like, oh, it's a movie and ooh, what's going to happen next? It's one of those uneasy feelings where it kind of hits close to home with you in some way, shape, or form. Because everybody's had a relationship.
Boiled a bunny. That hurts me. That hurts me. That hurts my heart.
There is a warning. If you haven't seen the movie and you do want to see the movie, there is a boiling bunny scene, and it is kind of upsetting. Okay. It's very upsetting.
It's very not okay.
This film has such power to make people feel uneasy like that close to home, because everybody kind of identifies with being in a relationship, things not going well, meeting somebody else and kind of being like, I think a majority of people have gone through something very similar. And the fact that there's this woman who turns out to be like, oh, head over heels for this guy.
Right.
And then she turns into a fucking psycho, and it's
Right.
and the way she does it is it's subtle, but it's the most terrifying subtleness I've ever seen.
Like, honestly, after seeing this movie, I'm surprised that anybody still cheats in their relationships. Because, like,
Yes.
this would put me off cheating for life. Because you never know.
I know the scene in particular for me is, the ending is when she comes in and she's trying to kill the wife, and she and her fight for a hot second, and then Glenn Close drowns in the bathtub. And just the way her face is frozen with her eyes wide open, that was
Chills.
it. That was right. That was, I have chills right now just talking about it. To me, that seals the deal. She fucking deserved that. She deserved that Oscar so much for that. And then, she gets up for that jump scare.
Right.
Just absolutely horrifying. Horrifying.
She was a good villain.
Absolutely.
I don't understand how it didn't put off people from cheating. Because you're
right?
like, I don't know if this person I'm bringing home is going to, like, turn into a stalker who boils my pet on the stove.
Like, is she going to sneak into my wife's bathroom and try to fucking stab her?
Right.
See,
I'm so much less upset about the fact that she tried to stab his wife than I am about the bunny. Like,
to be fair,
I get it. Stab the wife, whatever. Okay, it's not good, but I get it. Like, but what did that bunny ever do to you, Glenn
it's
Close?
not good, but I get it.
Right.
Honestly, though, animals over people.
For sure. Always. Alright, so my number one is another newer film, and it's Get Out. For many, I think this movie should have been showered with awards. I think it should have won Best Original Screenplay and Best Picture for Jordan Peele. I think it should have won Best Actor for Daniel Kaluuya.
Absolutely.
And I think it should have won Best Supporting Actress for Catherine Keener, because that woman is creepy. Like, in this movie. She's a great actress all around. But Catherine Keener in this movie, I think she understood the assignment, and she did great with it.
Absolutely.
But, like, and again, we've touched on this, like Scream, like Saw, like Texas Chainsaw. It rejuvenated the genre at a time when it needed it.
Absolutely.
We were drowning in torture porn, you guys. Like, it was Centipede 3, it was Hostel 15, it was crazy torture porn. And so when Get Out comes in with its psychological, mystery kind of thing, it's like, it was a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
And it's, again, going back to the horror roots of touching on social issues and political issues of the day. And I don't know, like, it stuck with you, the imagery in it, when he's falling into, it's such stunning imagery. The characters stick with you. That ending sticks with you because we all thought it when that cop car pulled up. We were like, okay, he's fucked. Like, he's done. And for Rod to get out of the car, and that's the way Jordan Peele originally wanted it to end too. He said that his original ending was going to have, it was the cops, which is the more realistic ending.
Definitely.
And I think I appreciate that it was Rod, because by that point we were so tense and from everything that had just happened. Yes. And it was like we needed that bit of reprieve for it to be like, oh God, he is going to be okay. Like, so I just think all around brilliant movie. I think Daniel and Catherine did absolutely fantastic in their roles. So yeah, I think Get Out is one of the most recent big Oscar snubs.
Absolutely. I think Get Out, it has one of the best social and political commentaries I've ever seen in a film. And I truly, genuinely mean that. And praise be to Jordan Peele for that. He was able to relay that message without it being too heavy. Yeah. It's obviously still a very, very heavy message. And anytime those situations are brought up, it's always going to be heavy. Always going to be heavy.
Because some people you do have to smack over the head to get them to realize. Like, some people don't get subtlety.
They really don't. And especially in art, sometimes it really does have to slap you in the fucking face and say, look, there's some dumb shit happening to people of color, and you're not fucking paying attention to it. Oh, because you're white. And
that's another reason I feel like Jordan Peele should have more recognition. Yes. Because he's made horror for people of color mainstream.
Yes.
Like,
as it should be.
As it should be. It should be mainstream. They should be, it should be, everybody should feel welcome in horror. And that's why I congratulated Cassandra Peterson when she came out with her 19-year relationship with a woman. I was so happy for her. First of all, 19 years is a long time with anyone, so congrats. Like, I could not imagine a 19-year relationship.
How could you keep that secret? You're fucking seeing Elvira.
From what I hear, it's, it was a secret, like, because I guess she went with her to a lot of, signings and events and stuff.
Sure.
And she was her, assistant or whatever. But she was always there with her. So that's sweet, too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it should be. Whether you're a person of color, whether you're LGBTQ, IA, whether you're just... I don't know, anybody, really. I love that we've got deaf representation in horror.
We've got Place.
We've got blind representation in horror. We've got, I think everybody should feel represented, and horror should be that welcoming place for them. Because in the eyes of the slasher, usually they don't care who they're killing. They'll kill everybody equally.
I think, too, Black cinema has such a large importance on horror because... It started in, like, the 1960s when Grindhouse was starting to become really popular, and the MPAA wasn't keeping tabs on these films. So it was, people could go out and just make whatever they wanted. And what came out of that era was a lot of blaxploitation.
Yep.
And they're great films.
Good movies.
They're so good and fun, and just a great fucking time.
A great watch. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a great, we're not sponsored by Shudder, but there's a really, really great documentary.
Horror noir.
Horror noir.
That was great.
It's so informative, educational, it really opens your eyes on blaxploitation, and it's phenomenal, and you need to fucking watch it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like, watch it after this. Watch it.
Immediately after this.
Open your fucking minds.
Go to Shudder, watch Horror Noir, because it's fantastic.
It's good.
But yeah, so it should be beyond just Candyman being the representative.
Absolutely.
I love that Jordan Peele was like, nope, here it is, you're gonna love it, and we do.
Yes.
So yeah,
anything he makes, it's really not disappointing.
Yep. More Jordan Peele, give us more.
Yes.
So yeah, I just want to say that I had a couple of honorable mentions that I really, really felt strongly about, but I just felt more strongly about these 5. But I'd call them a tie in 5th place. And the first one's going to be Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, good
And I think that one should have won Best Original Screenplay for Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon, even though I don't like Joss Whedon. And it should have won Best Supporting Actor for Bradley Whitford.
Yes! Bradley Whitford is a gem!
Right. In that movie, I love him so much. But it's a film that manages to tie every single horror trope, genre, and evil character into it while still managing to be its own unique thing.
Yes.
I think it was so original. I loved it. I love that Thor was in it before he was Thor. I love, it's just... Sigourney Weaver's in it. It's just a fantastic, fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
And the Easter eggs, you see all the creatures that they designed that are based on other horror franchises and stuff.
The amount of Easter eggs is overwhelming.
So much, you guys. So much.
Especially if you're, like, an avid, like, horror nerds like we are. Like, I was almost about to have a heart attack when I watched it, because I was like, there's that. Oh my god.
It was just me the whole time. I was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme the whole time. Like, it was a fantastic movie. It was so much fun. I felt happy coming out of the theater. Like, I know you're not supposed to, but like, it was just so much fun to watch.
Horror nerds don't leave scared.
Right.
Very rarely do they.
Right. And then my other one was a classic, Night of the Living Dead, and Best Original Screenplay for Romero and Russo. I think just based on what it was for its time, and then the empire that fucking came after it, like, you cannot have a zombie movie today without finding some influence from George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
It just, I just think it should have gotten so much more praise, especially on the budget it was shot on. It was low budget indie film. It whether Romero knew he was doing it or not, it had the social commentary just based on him hiring a black actor for a role. For color, he did colorblind casting, and everybody else saw the message in it.
Yep.
So it's a genius. It's a genius film.
You know, George Romero is, my personal favorites, like, that I could literally talk for hours, on any George Romero film. George Romero is a huge influence on my life. He was one of the reasons why I wanted to go into filmmaking and why I loved horror so much. And he is so important, and people don't realize how important he is in the genre. And, you know, it's this guy from Pittsburgh. And the thing that's so special about that, especially just with the screenplay and where it was filmed, is, again, this was in Pittsburgh. During that time, it was pretty standard that you always shot a film in Los Angeles on a stage. You always had to go out to Hollywood, to Los Angeles, to do anything related to film. And George Romero was like,
about that.
No. And he stayed in Pittsburgh, and he made Night of the Living Dead. The surrounding areas, you know, in Evans City, you know, kind of on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, and it killed, you know, and it just showed how you can make Hollywood wherever you're at. And it's just such a great message, because I think that's kind of what prevents a lot of people from going into the film industry.
Right.
Because they're like, well, I have to move here, or I have to move there. No, you don't. Save your money, get a good camera, or, just...
And grab your friends and just start making movies.
You know, and George Romero was the, you know, he was the maverick for that, for sure. And
until Kevin Smith came on.
Stop! Stop it! But anyway, George Romero is an icon, you know, beyond, and as far as the casting, like you were mentioning, and kind of backpedaling to the social commentary that I had mentioned about Get Out, Night of the Living Dead is, in my opinion, like the best movie to have the political commentary. And he didn't
even intend it.
No.
He just hired the best guy he thought fit the role.
Yeah. He just really liked his performance. And to be fair, Dwayne Jones is awesome. And he's been in a lot of blaxploitation films. Go watch them. And, you know, it's crazy how, you're right, he went into it like, I just kind of wanted to do my own version of White Zombie. And it's crazy, all the social and political comments that came out of that film, and
people saw in it.
Yes, and it fits the mold so well. And I remember actually reading an interview where George Romero and John Russo, like the premiere of the screening of it, which was in October, the night of the premiere, they had just gotten news that Martin Luther King got shot, and I think that's where a lot of the social and political commentary came from.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's kind of how it stuck with that movie, even if it wasn't intentional.
Right.
You know, so anyway, I could talk hours about it. I'm going to stop.
Yeah, we're going to stop, because those were just honorable mentions anyway. So you just saw basically what this show is going to be. It's going to be every week us doing our top 5 things we hate for whatever the topic is that week. So please like and subscribe to this channel so that way you can catch all the episodes that we're going to have coming up where we just bitch about horror.
Nerd alert!
We're nerds. All right. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good night and good fight.